The Spanish race story we opened with underscores this. Those 130 riders quite clearly thought it was better to DNF that race than to pee in a cup and run the risk of being caught. They likely had been racing unchecked for a long time until surprise testing showed up one day. When you pair low testing probability with a high competitive drive, that's a dangerous combination. Masters athletes dope for many of the same reasons that professional athletes dope. To win, to be the best, to defy their limits, but with the added twist of age and personal pride in the mix. But they are literally risking their health and reputation for prizes like socks, vouchers for the local bike shop, and coffee beans. Like, what are they thinking? The rewards just do not justify the risks. There's no big contract or fame on the line, yet for these individuals involved, the internal reward does feel worth it. It's their self-image as a winner, the legacy in the local cycling scene, or simply the satisfaction of going faster than the guy next to you. It's a midlife crisis that's playing out on two wheels. This behaviour isn't without consequences. The fallout and the fighting back. Health-wise, older athletes are putting themselves in harm's way. Steroids can wreak havoc on your heart and your liver. EPO, we've seen it tragically in the past. It thickens blood levels, raising stroke risk. Stimulants strain the heart, and combining multiple drugs is a recipe for disaster. And then there's the disgrace factor, being outed as a cheater in your local community. Imagine facing or showing up to your local club ride on a Saturday after getting a ban. How embarrassing would that be, and isolating? Careers outside sport can even be affected, especially if the doping involves possession of illegal controlled substances. For the sport of cycling, seeing this happen at an amateur level, it's sobering. It challenges the integrity of competition at a grassroots. If a newcomer shows up to a Masters race and secretly half the bunch is doping, that newcomer is essentially competing in an uneven, unsafe competition without even knowing it. It risks driving clean athletes away. Why bother training hard at all? Why bother playing fair if the guy who keeps beating you is on a pharmacy's worth of assistance? There's a smaller scale echo of what pro cycling went through in its darkest days going on at the moment. So what can be done? What do we do to protect the integrity of amateur racing and keep it fun and fair to those who just love the sport? We need to start with cultural change, I think. Masters and amateur clubs need to foster a culture where honour and health are valued over victory and performances at all costs. Talking openly about the issue does help. When a doping bust happens, don't sweep it under the rug. Use it as a cautionary tale in the community. Many clean Masters athletes say they race for camaraderie, for fitness, for personal challenge. That ethos should be celebrated. I think targeted testing also helps. While we can't expect every weekend amateur race to have anti-doping control, resources are limited. That's just not going to be possible. Smart targeted testing can make a big difference. The element of surprise is key though. We've seen how effective this can be. The Spanish Federation's unannounced test scared off 130 riders that day, or the Italian NAS police showed up to a Gran Fondo last year on the start line. If a racer knows that an amateur event, there is a non-zero chance of them being tested, it may give them pause before doping. Some high-profile amateur events have already started implemented testing. I know last week at Traca gravel race there was testing at Gran Fondo, New York, for instance. They also began testing a number of years back, both winners and random participants, and that's led to several high-profile EPO busts in the results, and that sends a loud message to cheaters that it won't be tolerated. Looking at the club level as well, there can be simple steps clubs can take. Clubs can require members when they sign up to the club to sign a pledge to race clean. If somebody in the club is caught doping, the club can take internal action like suspension of the membership. This might sound a bit harsh, but it reinforces a no-tolerance stance on this. Also, teammates and friends shouldn't enable that doping behaviour. If you suspect your buddy is taking something illicit, you can talk to them quietly, or you can talk to someone in the club who can intervene. Yes, it's a tough conversation and nobody wants to be called a snitch, but remember that doping often happens in secrecy, and spreading some light on that early could stop a bad decision decision. This is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be for health, for enjoyment, not an arms race. Lastly, I think some perspective, some individual perspective, like individual contemplating cheating, for them to just to take a step back and find perspective. Master cycling, it's a competitive outlet, yes, but it's not worth destroying your health or your reputation. Reframe what winning means. Winning could be beating your personal best, the new Strava record, or simply being healthy enough to race your bike at any age. For me, being a role model to the younger generations is really important. Serious Masters riders need to remember why they fell in love with cycling in the first place. It likely wasn't to hang IV bags from your closet and microdose EPO on the sly. It was probably the freedom of the ride, the thrill of the competition, the friendship, the bike packing, the travel, the fitness. You don't need a striped jersey or a plastic trophy from a Masters Worlds to validate your cycling journey. If you really must chase that prestige, do it in the right way, because a tainted victory is just hollow. Tyler Hamilton said to me it was a prouder moment handing back his Olympic gold medal than it was winning the Olympic gold medal. Ask any of the people who have been caught, and I guarantee you they say it wasn't worth it in the end. Doping in master cycling, it's a sobering reality, one that strips away the notion of the harmless weekend warrior. It tells us that the win at all costs mentality can seep into any level of sport, from Tour de France podiums to your Tuesday night crits. The state of amateur racing, fortunately, is not all doom and gloom. The vast majority of masters compete clean, for the love of the game. They're outraged when a peer cheats, and rightly so. The silver lining is that each high-profile bust, it's sparked a conversation and reform. Anti-doping bodies are starting to pay attention to the amateur ranks. Gravel testing is now a thing. Clean riders are speaking up. The credibility of masters racing can be preserved if we collectively insist on it. In the end, serious master racers and their communities have a choice. Turn a blind eye or stand up with integrity. My call to all masters riders out there: race hard, train hard, but please race clean. If you're tempted to dope, ask yourself, what legacy do you want? One of a disgraced cheat, or one of somebody who pushed their limits with honour? And for the clubs and race organisers, please continue to educate, continue to test when feasible, continue to create an environment where cheating just isn't worth it. Cycling is a beautiful sport. It gives us a second youth in masters competition. It lets us feel like pros for a day, pinning on numbers, travelling to races, wearing national champions jerseys, and maybe even a rainbow jersey in your age category. But it should feel like you've earned it by dedication and by passion, not something that you've purchased through pharmacological intervention. Doping in amateur cycling is indeed a serious issue, but it's one we can fight by keeping our priorities straight: health, camaraderie, and true sportsmanship over ego. And remember, at the end of the day, we all started cycling because we love it. No needle or pill can replace that simple joy and freedom that two wheels can give us. Thanks for watching, folks, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, please take a moment to check out this video up here. I know you're going to love it. Also, if you check out the description down below, I've built a number of free resources, including a tire pressure calculator, all totally free. You can access that with the link down below. And take 1 second to subscribe to the channel up here. See you next day.